but behind closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.
What's up, guys? Back again with another Overwatch video, and to start this off, I'm gonna tell a little story. So, I took the past week and a half or so off from really playing Xbox or any type of video games. I had a huge report due in some market research class. I had a test, I had a quiz, I had several other homework assignments all pile up, and it was just best for me to be like, hey, I need to take a break. I need to actually focus on some work, and then I can play Xbox and do that kind of fun stuff after. So I did. And then, my friend comes into town. He flew in from Las Vegas. We were playing basketball, every other day for 5 hours. It was a great time. But in the midst of that, I, of course, wasn't playing Xbox, so I wasn't playing Overwatch. It was right in the middle of when they started talking about the new changes that they're coming out with Roadhog and the Bastion changes. And I was like, fantastic, more changes. We're finally going to get the game. It's going to be perfect, We're going to be, well, not perfect, but we're going to be one step closer to where we need to be, to where they can say, maybe we don't need to change this every 5 days. And I was expecting to come back, as soon as I just started playing, I was expecting to come back and be ready to go. I could play for 6 hours, I just got the game, that day one feeling of Overwatch. And, that's just not what happened. So, and I want to tell you a little about last night. So last night was the first night I played competitive Overwatch in over a week and a half, and I am already somewhat sick of it. And it's sad because I thought that, Overwatch was this game that was going to last me years and I'd never get tired of it. And there are just so many things wrong with it that I didn't see at first. And this is the video that I'm going to kind of talk about why I think Overwatch may die a lot sooner than expected, at least for me and people like myself. I know a few of my friends have also, started buying new games and started looking at other options just because Overwatch is not what it used to be for us. And one thing I really want to touch on is this overcorrecting bowl that they're doing. First of all, I do admire them for taking their characters, looking at him and saying, you know what, we could tweak him to be more fair. We could change this to help fit the game better. But at the same time, they're just making these characters, way too powerful, way too weak. And it's making this limbo in this game that is just so infuriating. And sometimes they're touching other characters just to correct themselves. And that's at least what I think so. With the Diva buff, when she got an extra 100 armor, and then they were like, oh, we need someone to counter her, so let's buff Soldier. And then Soldier became one of the most overpowered things in the game. Now they had to buff Roadhog, partly because they also nerfed Diva, so they now have to nerf Roadhog, and he was actually overpowered to begin with. And then because of that Soldier nerf, or the Soldier buff, I think they also are now buffing Bastion. Bastion was never really used, but if you see these new Bastion changes, you have an increased or a decreased weapon spread, you have increased mobility, healing on the run. He's essentially a soldier, but with the ability to turn into a turret and lay down more, if not 4 times more fire than a soldier. And it's things like this where you're touching a character just because you screwed up somewhere else in the game, or because you made one other character too powerful and you can't totally go back on that. So you have to buff and nerf other characters to help balance the game around the character that you just balanced. I don't know what about it is. Why don't they touch Sombra and actually make her legitimate? Or Junkrat? Why don't they touch Widow for console at least? You could easily put a bigger buff to Winston. I mean, you just gave Bastion one of the biggest buffs I have ever seen in the game. You made him a character that may be picked every game, yet you barely buff Winston, and Winston is one of the most unused characters. If you had just given Winston, I don't know, more attack, or the ability to jump faster, I don't know how you can buff Bastion the way you do, and then not buff Winston, because Winston's essentially just going to be a now bullet shield for a Bastion. It's just part of these. They're touching characters that they really didn't need to touch, too. You didn't need to touch Soldier. You really didn't need to touch Diva originally. If you did, you just increase her weapon speed. Don't touch her health. She's a huge health target already. And with that giant defense shield that she can essentially block every ult in the game, she didn't really need to be buffed. And then Bastion, another character that if he's using the right situation, almost like a Symmetra, he didn't really need to be buffed either. He was perfect the way he was. Yeah, you weren't going to see him on capture points and stuff like that, but at the same time, maybe that's not the situation. You made Symmetra to be a very situational character. Why can't Bastion be that as well? For me, it's just there are too many changes. We're entering this never-ending meta limbo of it's 3 tanks, now it's 2 tanks, now it's 2 heals, now it's 3 heals, it's a lot to follow, and I know, it keeps the game lively at times, it does have its pros, but I feel like the cons at this point are outweighing their pros. I can't even choose a character anymore without having to find a new main, everyone's supposed to have, several mains so they can always adapt, but at the same time, it's like, I have a certain few characters that I like to play, and I can't even play them anymore. And every time the meta shifts, they might not be in the meta, they may be in the meta. And it's just this constant relearning as well. I started out as a Reaper and a Junkrat. Then I had to switch to a Soldier and a Lucio. And now Lucio's not even good enough, so I have to learn Mercy, and now I have to learn Mei again. And it's... I would just like them to take a step back, look at all the characters in the game and say, where is it worse? What do we need to touch? Touch it slightly. And just be more careful. Look at the PTR a little more in depth or something. Reach out to console players and see where the strengths and weaknesses of these characters are. Be more thorough with these updates, because just putting out these updates on a PTR saying, good enough, and then coming into the game and being like, oh, well, we fucked up. Like, it's clearly that we left him too powerful, or we made him too powerful. It just ruins the game, because you get into the gameplay and then you see the same thing every time, and you'll run into these players and you'll be like, well, there's really no good counter for this anymore because you made him so strong. And to me, it's sad, because I love the game, I love the gameplay, I love the idea and the whole story behind it, but the more and more they touch this and overcorrect themselves, the more and more I think the game has been starting to suffer. And then the big thing about last night, the reason I was nearly going to bed punching a wall, is because of the Smurf. And I know we've talked about this before, and I've watched a ton of YouTube videos on things like this, but this Smurfing is absolutely killing me. And I have some friends, I have a friend who you've seen me play with, Barbaric Yeti. You've seen me play with Han Solo Dolo. They were 35, 3700s. They went on these insane streaks. They're amazing players. And they got too high to play with the rest of the group. We have players in our friend group ranging from 2200, really 1700, all the way up to now, 3700. So they weren't able to play with everyone. So they were like, we're going to make a Smurf. We're going to keep it super low just so we're able to play with our friends. And when it's in my side, I understand that. It's like, it's not fun to play Overwatch without your friends and to be so high that you can't play with anyone. So I understand making a Smurf. But if you're going to make a Smurf, you have to just respect the fact that everyone else is still trying to win. We got into so many games last night where we would play with a Smurf, and it was clear because he's only played, 17 hours on this account. He's already at 25, and he's only played this current competitive season. And the thing was that a lot of them were just getting killed. They were playing characters that they don't normally play because they're on the secondary account that they don't give a shit about. They're playing Genji and they're playing Hanzo, and they're just trying to... They know they're skill-wise good enough to beat all these guys, but at the same time, they're not using their characters that they're so good with. We even got in a game with a Smurf who lost one capture point. We were in the game, we lost the first capture point. He immediately starts switching to Widowmaker and just sitting. Literally sitting in the spawn. He moved, went to the point, sat in the point, like on the side of the point, not actually in it, but like on the side looking in. And of course we lost the game, you know? If you have someone doing this for the entire game, you're playing 5-on-6, you're never going to win. And we actually won one of the points without him, despite him. And it's just things like that another thing that is ruining the game. And I know you can't deal with trolls, and there's trolls in every game. You know, Gears of War, Call of Duty, Madden, there's always going to be a troll. The only difference is in Overwatch that it doesn't affect the game as much. You know, if you troll in Call of Duty and you're sitting there looking at the sky and spinning around, you might die 10 times. You'll make it hard to win that team deathmatch. But in reality, what does that team deathmatch really mean? You know, there isn't a huge... You don't go down in rank. You don't have all these issues that you do with Overwatch. Overwatch is so dependent on winning and so dependent on your team that when you have a troll coming in just doing it for fun, it totally ruins the game. 2 weeks ago, before I stopped playing, we got in a game, and it was myself, Barbaric Yeti, Mason, Rybo, and I think there was one other person. I think it was Juby Dooby Doo, who you've, I think, seen in my gameplay and who you will see in this gameplay. But we were on Route 66, and we were like, you know, we're just going to pick a few characters. Mason decided to choose Symmetra, the new Symmetra, and Yeti decided to choose Mei. We got all the way to the point, and we realized that our randoms had gone Torbjorn and Widowmaker on Route 66 defense. And they played that for almost the entirety of the game, until the very end. As soon as Mason switched off Symmetra, both of them switched and started trying. But as soon as he switched back onto Symmetra, you know, to do offense, he accidentally clicked it. They immediately went Torbjorn and Widow again. We invited him to the party, talked to him, and they literally told us, yeah, we were throwing the game. You can't really pick a Symmetra and a Mei on this point. You know, you're going to lose anyway, so we just decided to troll and just kind of unpurposely lose. And this absolutely blew my mind that you could be like, oh, well, those are two characters that I wouldn't pick, so I'm just going to screw around and make you guys lose. I'm not going to try. Why would I try when our comp isn't exactly what I want it to be? And it's just, these players are so toxic, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's literally nothing. If two of them wanted to quit, we would have lost SR anyway. They can get 3 minutes into the game, be pushing it, we can be stopping them. If they decide to quit because they want to be trolls, I lose my SR. There is absolutely nothing to stop people from just trolling. You know, I can report them, but at the same time, what are they going to be banned for a week and then come right back? Or are they going to make an alternate account and just do it again? There just has to be something to change. I'm so sick and tired of getting on a win streak and then finding a troll who's just like, you know, I'm on a Smurf account, I don't care, I just want to mess around and play Hanzo. Or a guy who's like, you know, this isn't going the way I want, we just lost a capture point, I'm going to quit because I don't want to play a losing game. You know, Blizzard cannot fix all of this. I fully understand it. But at the same time, something needs to be done because it is absolutely ruining the game. I have spent way too many nights so frustrated at these players that I'm in lobbies with, and there's nothing I can do. You know, there's no helping the players who legitimately want to play. There has to be, or there should be, something in place where you can file a complaint after the game and be like, you know what, our teammate was being a troll, you know, you should look into him and get him banned. Or if someone quits the game midway through, I should not lose 60 SR for quitting a 5-on-6 game, even after the time that they give you on the top is. You know, I shouldn't lose a game if someone quits or gets disconnected, and I shouldn't lose SR for that, because it's not my fault. Of course, the guy who left or the guy who got disconnected, yeah, you can lose the SR, but the rest of us, the game should just be mute at that point, you know? I understand that can cause problems as well, but there's just... Bottom line, Overwatch is a game that I truly love. It is a game that I've had more fun with than I've had since, you know, Call of Duty years ago. Like, I'm talking Modern Warfare 2. But there's just a few things, this constant limbo of buffing and nerfing, this big issue with these Smurfs and the trolls now. The more and more we get into the game, the more they're starting to be prevalent. Something needs to change, otherwise this game is just going to become one giant group of people who are just furious at themselves and just running and just being angry the entire time. The game has gone from having a good time to being super stressed about SR and worrying about every game getting in the game with a troll. And I'm going to end the video here. If you guys agree with my opinions, please leave a like or subscribe on the video. We're going to have a ton more rants, a ton more Overwatch content coming out soon. And as always, stay achieving.